Hey Star Wars fans, today we're going to rewind to the first draft script of Star Wars, particularly the first crawl, and how different Star Wars would have been had George Lucas continued down that path. Most of the information on today's video is from the Star Wars Archives, written by Paul Duncan, and I highly recommend these books. You can pick yours up at Target, or there's a link in the description to get yours on Amazon, and by doing that, you greatly help the channel, so thank you. In 1971, while promoting THX 1138, George Lucas and his wife Marcia stopped in New York to visit King Features, who owned the rights to Flash Gordon, a character that George loved as a kid. Trying to secure the rights to Flash Gordon, George wanted to do a feature adaptation of Flash, but King Features wanted Italian director Federico Fellini to direct. And they also wanted 80% of the gross. Not wanting to negotiate any further with King Features, George decided to work on American Graffiti with Universal Pictures, but kept on tooling the idea of a space opera that was inspired by Flash Gordon. After the success of American Graffiti in 1973, that very year, George would write a 2-page outline for his space opera called The Journal of the Whills. This eventually became a 14-page treatment called The Star Wars. Now, for those of you who don't know, a treatment is a small written summary or synopsis of the main ideas of a movie. It can be as long as a few paragraphs or multiple pages long. The basic idea of a treatment is to get a studio or investors excited about a film idea so they can invest in the development of a script or the whole film itself. George had completed a 14-page treatment, and I will go over the treatment in full detail in a future episode. Deeply influenced by Japanese filmmaker Akira Kurosawa and author Joseph Campbell, which Lucas took a class with while a student at USC, the samurai beliefs and situational stories are inspired from Kurosawa's The Hidden Fortress movie. And with the history of how myths are created and told by humanity, that was pulled directly from Joseph Campbell and became the basis of The Force. The Star Wars was under development at Universal Pictures and United Artists due to a 3-picture deal that George Lucas had signed with them in 1971. Both studios passed on the idea, which was great because waiting to invest in the film was Alan Ladd Jr., who was a fan of George's and said he would invest in developing the script. And in a contract dated August 20th, 1973, by 20th Century Fox and Lucasfilm, George Lucas would get $15,000 to develop the script, $50,000 on script delivery, and $100,000 to direct the movie. In May 1974, George Lucas had a complete rough draft, and his friend, Francis Ford Coppola, invited Lucas to work on his next film, the now critically acclaimed Apocalypse Now. George declined to work on Apocalypse Now, instead finishing the second draft of Star Wars. The first draft was over 200 pages, a novel for a film screenplay. On the second draft, entitled The Star Wars Adventures of the Starkiller, Episode 1, he managed to get it down to 118 pages. Here is how the opening roll would have been had George Lucas gone with his first draft, officially dated July 1975. Fade in. Space. A sea of stars is broken by the vast blue surface of the planet Organa. 5 small moons slowly drift into view from the far side of the planet. The main titles are followed by a roll-up. Until the recent Great Rebellion, the Dai Nagas were the most feared warriors in the universe. For 100,000 years, generations of Dai perfected their art as the personal bodyguards of the king. They were the chief architects of the invincible Royal Space Force, which expanded the king's power across the galaxy from the celestial equator to the furthest stars. Now, these legendary warriors are all but extinct. One by one, they have been hunted down and destroyed as enemies of the new galactic kingdom by a ferocious and sinister rival warrior sect, the Legions of Letau. A small silver spacecraft emerges from behind one of Organa's moons. The deadly little fighter craft speeds past several of the moons until it finally goes into orbit around the 4th moon. You can really see hints of how this draft was still the basis of the main story for the final draft of Star Wars. Basically, a rebellion going against an empire, and warriors who were hunted down by this empire, not called Jedi, but Die Nogas, and only a mention of a Space Force and not the Force. If you read this first draft, the Die often say, "May the force of others be with you." It would have been interesting for George to have made this version, and maybe someday a fan will actually make a fan film using this original script. Maybe somebody already has. Let me know your thoughts on this, and please subscribe to the channel and like this video to help out the channel. And if you're interested, watch this video on your screen for more in-depth Star Wars Rewind content. And as always, my friends, thank you, and I will see you next time.